Hey, this is Adewale Ademiwe from StressTherapist.net, and today we're going to be learning how to stop yourself from absorbing people's emotion. Maybe you're that person who is very empathetic and you connect so easily to people's pain, and that stops you from socializing, maybe stops you from interacting with people because you're so scared that they will say something that then would affect you for the rest of the day. So today we're going to be looking at two crucial steps you've got to take that was going to enable you to become stronger emotionally around dealing with these kind of triggers. But just quickly, if you haven't yet downloaded my free PDF guide on how to stop re-victimizing yourself emotionally, please go to stresstherapist.net/wellness and get your free copy, because I go in deeper into some of the concepts that we're going to be covering today, which shows you how to become stronger in yourself emotionally. So are you one of those people who finds that wherever you go, no matter what you do, you just find that people get attracted to you and they find it so easy to spill out their guts to you, no matter what you do to try and stop that? So perhaps for you, you've gone to work with your own mind, you're just thinking all you're just coming to do is do your work, right? But someone comes to you, have a conversation with you, they open everything out, and they say something that just makes you feel sad emotionally and makes you feel drained and makes you feel heavy. So the question is, what do you do when you feel like you've become that human sponge that just takes on board everybody's stuff? How do you get to be that person who's able to leave their issues there? And yes, interact with them, show you care, show you are concerned, but not take it with you for the rest of the day. Now, in order to start figuring out how to stop taking things on board the way you want, one of the first important steps, like I mentioned, is to really understand what's the practical steps you're taking to take things on board. What are you actually doing? Are you finding yourself somehow applying what they have said to yourself? So let's say they're talking about a family member who's had chemo because of a cancer. Did that sort of trigger a memory for you? And are you finding yourself struggling to just work with that memory because it's an emotional memory that's now hurting you? So in that sense, you've related with what that person has said in a very strong way and connected to things in your own life that then makes it very hard to let go of that conversation. A crucial point to note here is that the only reason you are being triggered is because something they are talking about is linked to something else that you've tried to block away. Something, it may be recently, maybe in the past, but something that you've tried your best to cope with by burying it or blocking it away. And the problem is that if these issues are not dealt with, you'll carry them under the hood literally for the rest of your life. I've had experiences of people carrying such issues for 70 odd years. Because something happened 70 years ago when they were still young and they coped by burying it. And because they didn't deal with it, 70 years later, the issue emerged and starts making them struggle. And so here's my first point. When these kind of things happen, it's good to start seeing it as a blessing. I know that perhaps that feels like a wrong thing to say, but a blessing because these situations are shining a torchlight onto something that you have in your life that has not been managed, something that needs to be managed, something that will make you emotionally vulnerable, if not managed. These types of issues, they're a bit like wounds that have healed on the surface, but not healed inside. So somebody else comes, says something, and that peels off the surface of the wound, revealing the pain inside the wound. So let's put this into practical terms now. So you're going through your day and somebody said something to you that just triggers you. Your inclination, your natural pattern will be to just take that thing and bury it down again. You're trying to force it down again. But as you're forcing it down again, that very act of trying to force it down again is actually making your brain more sensitive to that memory. So it's just working against the process. And as a result, it can linger longer through your day, even through the week. So a better approach would be to just take what has been said, note it down, write it down on paper, maybe write it loads of time, because what you're doing there is you're helping your brain to process what has happened, or maybe even speak to somebody about it over and over again. So when I keep saying process, the reason I keep saying process is that our brain, whenever we go through a traumatic experience, our brain wants to be able to process the experience in a way that it helps it to feel resolved, that the problem that you've just experienced is no longer a threat to you. You're no longer threatened by it. So in a way, you are now in a safer place. And if you do not allow the brain to do the processing, your brain keeps bringing you back to that experience to try and process it, because somewhere it's locked in a state. That memory is locked in a state that feels like it's a real, live, ongoing thing. And so your brain is trying to process to help you move forward. But because you've blocked it away for whatever reason, the brain now looks for opportunities, and the opportunities would be anything that it can link to the memory, like a plate being broken, or a noise, a smell, or something that could be linked to the memory. And that's why it's so easy when someone is now discussing something and they mention something that's linked with a memory, and the brain just latches onto it and you're triggered. So usually when people go through a traumatic experience, maybe like an accident, the pattern you follow, you notice you become very obsessive about that accident. You talk about it a lot. You relive it a lot. This is the brain really processing. And that could go on for about 3 months. And after 3 months, you feel resolved and you can let go of that memory, of that experience, of that trauma. So if for whatever reason, maybe because you feel too scared, or feel angry, or feel ashamed, or feel embarrassed, or feel guilty, and because of those feelings, you block away the pain, the memory, because it just feels too painful to address. It stops the brain from processing this experience, and it just adds to the pile of things in your memory that has not been processed. And this is why over years you can amass a number of different experiences that gets triggered so easily. And that's why when you practice by processing it over and over again, it could be by writing something over and over again, by telling the experience to somebody else over and over again, by imagining it over and over again. That's why the brain then is able to then process and let it go. And then you feel safer. You don't feel so vulnerable. You don't feel so triggered when someone talks about the same thing. And that's exactly how we stop ourselves from being that person who just keeps absorbing other people's emotions. So we do those two things. One is make sure we understand the process we follow as we're trying to cope with this problem. And two, we make sure we do not get in the way of the brain's processing power, so that your brain can process and set you free. But like we had said before, one of the reasons why this problem gets so strong is because you've developed a strength, and this particular strength is that ability to block things away and to push things that you don't want to deal with away. You've gotten so good at that, and that protected you. But as it's protecting you, it's also creating other problems. So we've looked at one strategy to kind of work on that today. But like I said earlier on, I've got a free PDF that goes in more deep depth and helps you to be able to unearth loads more strengths, the things that you've leaned on so heavily that's cause you to go out of balance in your ability to manage your emotions. So if you haven't yet downloaded that free guide, just go to stresstherapist.net/wellness and you'll get your free copy. And I'm sure that when you start to read that and understand it, you start to gain a better sense of why emotional problems exist in the first place, and you'll start to feel even better in yourself